What is up, guys? Welcome back to Cloud Space with Siba. And in this video, I'm going to be doing a really quick demo on how you can automatically restart pods in a Kubernetes cluster. Now, there may be different situations as you when you need to do this. It could be that you just need to periodically restart pods in a certain deployment, so that they refresh, or they restart a process for processing, right? So there may be many different cases as to why you need to do this, but I think this video might be able to help, right? So there's a couple of things we're going to take care of. Because there's many parts that kind of play a role in this. Firstly, we're going to deploy the deployment that's going to give us the pods that will then be deleted later. Then what we're going to do is we're going to create a cron job, and essentially a cron job is going to be fired or triggered at a certain time that we specify. And what it'll do is inside of that cron job, we're going to have a kubectl container in it that then will perform kubectl delete command for specific pods that have a specific label. Yeah. Now, once that is done, we're also going to create a service account. And the reason a service account is important is that containers themselves need to be authorized to do those. That container is going to need to be authorized to do or take those kind of actions, and that's what a service account will do. It'll give us the access token to then make those calls to the API. But we still need to add the next pod, which is a role, and the role is going to specify what kind of actions we can ask the API to perform on our behalf, right? And then we're going to have lastly something called a role binding, because a role binding is then going to bind as the name suggests, it's going to bind the service account as well as the role itself, so that the role is then able to take those kind of actions, right? So enough talking. Let me start off here by creating a deployment. Okay, it's going to be API version. It's going to be apps version 1. It's going to be kind deployment. We're going to have the metadata. Right, I'm going to use Copilot for that. Thanks. So I'm going to call it, we're just going to call it NGX deployment. We're going to give it a label. It's going to be in the default namespace. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a, okay, we don't need the label now, actually, now that I think about it. So, and then we're going to do spec. And in spec, we're going to have the number of replicas, and I'm going to say 2 for now. We're going to have a selector. That's what I'm going to do there. And then in terms of the template, okay, so it's giving me quite a lot. It's helping me quite a lot, yeah. So let me just do that, save time, right? So now we have our deployment here. I'm just making sure that the labels are correct. Sure. In fact, I'm just going to take out the ports, right, we don't need them, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to deploy this in our cluster. Now I do have a cluster that's running already. If I do a kubectl get pod, we have nothing, right? It's a clean cluster. It's running on EKS. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to now deploy this deployment, right? Okay, cool. So now if we say get pod, PO, short for pods, we can see that those containers are creating. I'm going to run it again. They should now probably be running. Cool. Now we have running containers that we can then periodically restart. Okay, cool. Now let's create the cron job. Okay, cool. That's what we're going to do here. So we're going to have, again, as usual, API version, which will be under the batch API. Yeah. Batch version 1, and then we're going to do kind, which is of CronJob, and then we're going to have our metadata as usual. We're going to give it a name, and we're going to say, I want to say auto restart CJ, right? It's going to be in the default namespace by default, and then what we now want to do is we want to do the schedule. I'm going to do it every minute for now. And then I'm going to say the job template, right? Let's do this. Cool. Job template spec, template spec. And then what I want us to do the container section, we're going to have kubectl container, and then we're going to have the image, right? And that image is going to come from Bitnami, kubectl. We can just take the latest, it's fine. Cool. And then now, importantly, once we have the image, in the image, we want to run a command, a specific command. What we want to do is we want to run /bin/bash, and then we want to do -c, and then now we're going to do kubectl, and what we want to do is we want to delete pods with a specific label. I'll do ng, okay, and what we want to do is we want to say grace period 0 and force --force, right? So that even if there's a policy that says they should gracefully shut down in a given space of time, what we are saying here is that we want to do it immediately, right? So perfect. Now, when this container takes this fires this command here, it's going to get denied. The reason for that is because it doesn't have the proper permissions to do that, right? And so what we're going to do is we're going to give it we're going to allow it to use a service account, and I'm just going to call this auto restart SA, right? And then what are we going to do here? We're then going to create the service account, service account.yaml. And what I'm going to do is, as usual, I'm going to start off by saying the version, okay, and then the kind is going to be service account, and then in the metadata, just going to give it a name. Let's do that, right? I think that we don't need to do that because automatically it'll be created in the default namespace. Cool. Now the service account in itself is not sufficient. So if we go here now, sorry, CronJob, auto restart, I just want to make sure the name matches. Okay, cool. The name does match. So let me just do that. Cool. Just because we have a service account, it doesn't mean it's going to automatically work. What we then need to do now is we need to create a role. Right. We need to create a role that this service account is then going to assume, in inverted commas. So to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to say RBAC. Oh, it's already giving me that. Oh, I love Copilot. And then we're going to say role. As usual, metadata, we're going to give it a name. I'm going to give it a name. I'm just going to say RL here, just to be short. And then we're going to give it some rules, right? As you can see, rules. Okay, what we're going to do is, in the core API, we want access to pods. And what we want to do is we want to be able to list the pods. We want to be able to delete the pods. And we want to be able to get pods. Okay, simple, right? Very, very simple. Now, what we need to do with the role in place and the service account in place, now we need to bind both the service and the role. So I'm going to have a role binding object here. And as usual, we're going to do API version role binding. What am I doing? Sorry, man. API version, it's going to be RBAC. Then that's the kind, right? Role binding. And then we're going to have, as usual, the metadata. Then what we're going to do now is we're going to reference the role that we created. So we're going to say kind role. Sometimes I don't like the auto completion. That's the name of the role, and then the API group. What is it doing now? The API group is it's going to be RBAC. And then the subjects, we're going to have kind as well, which is going to be service account. Then let's just let's do that, and then we'll just clean up the rest. Perfect, cool. Now we're binding these things together, right? So I think we've created everything. Now let's deploy all of this. Okay, now I'm going to deploy all of this. Hope I didn't misspell anything. So far, so good. All right, cool. Now let's just have a look at what's going on here. Okay, so now if you look at this might be hard to demonstrate now, but if you look here, we've now deployed a couple of things, right? One is this is the okay, and this is the cron job here. So the cron, oh, I see what's happening here. The cron job was already running, right? And I'm assuming when it was running before I created the service account and the role, it would have been having issues, I'm assuming here. Okay. So now what I'm gonna do is if you look at the cron jobs here, I think my schedule I think is a bit off. Let me just check the schedule quickly. Yeah, that is every minute. Why are they pending? But they complete as well, right? So I think that the best thing to do is that if you, oh yeah, there we go. So if you look at the NGX deployment, it's pending, right? And the reason it's pending is because the pods were deleted, right? So if I were to, for example, look at the completed pod here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say logs po / this one, right? And if we look at the logs, right, it deleted the NGX stuff parts. So yeah, it's working as expected. So yeah, there's a quick solution for you if you want to restart your pods now and again. And obviously you can change the cron job schedule here to accommodate the schedule that you want, right? So I hope that was helpful, and yeah, stick around. Please subscribe. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you get notified of videos that I upload. And of course, follow me on other social platforms like LinkedIn. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.